Okay, here's something I'm noticing across the board. If you're a creative professional in 2025, you're dealing with crazy industry challenges, really challenging mindset issues. If you're not dealing with any of these things, I want to know what you're putting in your coffee because I could sure use some. As I've shown up more consistently in sending out my newsletter lately and showing up online and social media lately, I'm noticing like some consistent themes that it doesn't really matter who you are. If you're a creative and you're earning a living doing so, you're dealing with a bunch of this stuff. So I just kind of want to unpack this in real time and hopefully, you get something out of this. This is an expansion on my newsletter that's going out this week. So if you like this kind of thing, you can get a little more nitty gritty with it. I'll put links in the description and the show notes. Sign up if you like. I would love to have you, obviously. And I have some notes off to the side, so if you're watching on YouTube and you see me glancing, that's what it is. But here we go. If we're talking about challenges and obstacles, right? I tend to go into most major life transitions kicking and screaming. It doesn't really matter what it is, and I'll give some examples later, but I find that because I'm a super stubborn person, just ask my wife, that I have a hard time with transitions. But inevitably, like 9 times out of 10, I get through whatever that big life obstacle is. I get to the other side and I'm like, oh, this is actually a lot better. So why is that? And a lot of it has to do with just mindsets and frameworks that I'm holding on to. We're human. We're products of our environment, whether it's how you were raised or the group of people you spent the most time with in your developmental years, whatever. Mindsets kind of become protection. I equate it in my newsletter to kind of like an armor. So the armor protects you, but what's the issue with most armor? If you think of like knights in shining armor, heavy armor comes at a cost. It weighs you down. It slows down your progress to a crawl. And as creatives, we want to be quick and nimble and always able to like pivot and adjust. I was always told that like if you can have a steady job, a steady paycheck, and health insurance, like you've made it, you're good. Clearly, I understand where that mindset comes from, especially now in 2025, where things are super challenging, really unstable, challenging times. Stability would be welcome, but it doesn't work for everybody. It certainly didn't work for me. And right around the time I got to the point where I was like ready for a change, but having difficulty shedding that old framework of stability, I was forced into it because I got laid off. And that started me on this big up and down roller coaster into finding freelance work as a creative, eventually winding up in New York City, finding filmmaking and all this other stuff. That came with its own set of challenges. There's this expectation in the film industry that you're going to pick a lane and stick to it. And I was always told that from the very early days. People would say, dude, you need to pick a lane, you need to figure out what you want to do, and you just need to hammer that and move up the ladder. And, I did that because that's what people were telling me to do. And it's been fruitful in certain ways. There are things there that work for some people and don't work for others. And I've had some success following a specific path. But there are things about it that don't really work for me. So these are all kind of like the ups and downs struggles that I've been dealing with as a creative professional now, over 10 years down the line. Recently, I guess in the last year or two, I was turned on to this book called The Obstacle is the Way by Ryan Holiday. So if you don't know who Ryan Holiday is, he's a modern Stoic, practices the Stoic philosophy. It's really interesting stuff. It may not be for everybody, but this book in particular was really kind of pivotal in like framing some stuff in black and white that kind of outlined the challenges that I was going through. And one quote that I put in the newsletter really resonated with me. It's, "The obstacle in the path becomes the path. Never forget, within every obstacle is an opportunity to improve our condition." So basically what this is saying is like, yeah, there's going to be bumps in the road. There's going to be things that you're having trouble getting over or around. And instead of getting over or around them, what if those things just became part of the journey forward? And I think that's really interesting and so poignant. It just really kind of hit me at a very specific time in life that it needed to hit me. So to take a step back and give you a little more personal history, and hopefully this frames it a bit better for you, I always wanted to be involved with the movie making process ever since high school. Now, back then, I wanted to score films. I wanted to compose the music for movies, have my name in the credits at the beginning of the film, go and conduct big orchestras and all that jazz. And I started pursuing a music career. Once I landed in New York, I was doing some underscore for commercials. I was writing and producing other artists. Like I was trying to make things happen. And I did to some point. Like I made a little bit of money, but I would burn through said money just kind of surviving in the city because it's expensive. I could never figure out how to make that work. But I still always loved, the idea of being involved with movies. So when I found film and video work, that was a much better fit. I was able to teach myself to shoot and edit and kind of build slowly over time a career that has now flourished into I'm a professional cinematographer. I own a production company. I have this podcast studio behind me. All of that looks successful. And Drew, who was just starting out in film, looking at Drew sitting here talking into this microphone, would consider that, big success. I was riding a wave and not really asking too many questions. I was just going with the flow. And now that I'm older, I realized that, it's good to question. It's good to check in with yourself on a regular basis and see, is the path you're on worth where you want to be in 5 years, 10 years? And what I was doing is just keeping my head down and hustle, and not really giving any of those considerations their due. Now, I was forced to do that when COVID hit, just like everybody else. Everybody went through some kind of like crazy upheaval for the most part. Now, for me, that looked like a lot of things in a very, very short period of time. So from the start of COVID for the following 2 years, I moved out of the city with my wife. We got engaged. We bought a house. We got pregnant. We had a kid. We got married. I mean, we did all of the big life things in a very short span of time. And that came with its own set of challenges, but also just incredible, amazing things. I've found things in life that I really love, and they are not always compatible with the path that everybody else says that you need to be on to be successful. So that is kind of the challenge that I'm dealing with now, is that I have a daughter and a lovely home. I have a beautiful family. I have a lifestyle that is nice. And I'm very fortunate in that regard. And I love being creative, but hustling and being on set and working long hours and being away from home for who knows how long, all those things don't necessarily fit as well as they used to. And on the professional side, I've also, found that after doing some like business mentorship and just meeting new people and having new conversations, that there's a part of me that really wants to build something sustainable that I can call my own. That's not just, oh, I hope somebody will give me this next gig, or let me just go shoot a bunch of stuff for free and hopefully people will hire me to do their job. It doesn't really work for life anymore. And I know a lot of people that are in that same boat. So a lot of it comes down to like ambition versus actual life, right? Just because something matches your ambition doesn't mean that it matches the life that you want. And that's totally okay. And I'm becoming more okay with it as I go. The film industry, to reiterate, it has a roadmap, right? Hustle, network, climb ladders, get on bigger sets. For me, it was like, do I join the union or do I not join the union? And if I do, that's not a guarantee of work. You still have to impress gatekeepers. And if you're lucky, it turns into something big and rewarding and sustainable. And I don't know many people that are in that boat. Now, that is what it is. So I had to make a choice. Do I keep pushing going down that route, which I know how that impacts relationships and families, or do I try to do something else? I think where I'm getting to now is like, how do I repurpose and reinvent myself given my skill set? Look, I've got 20 years in being a creative professional. If we're looking at starting with music and sound and moving all the way through like film and video, and now with podcasting lumped in there somewhere. I mean, it's kind of crazy to think that I have 2 decades of experience that I can really think about how I can leverage into something new and more sustainable. And so many people out there have this same thing. They're sitting on a skill stack that could really make them a sustainable living, but they're stuck in these old frameworks, these old mindsets of like, oh, well, this is just how the industry works or how the world works. And this is what I have to do to survive. And I don't really think that's true anymore. I think we've gotten to a point where we can kind of write our own terms if we're willing to put in a different kind of work. I have to believe that my skills aren't being wasted. They can just be repurposed and I don't know exactly what that looks like. And I guess the point is it's okay not to know. I am somebody who hates not knowing. I have to be okay not knowing. It's scary. It's uncertain. It feels like an obstacle, but maybe that's also the way forward. And that's just bringing it back around to the obstacle is the way. So look, the truth is I don't really know anything, and I'm not expecting anybody out there to know anything or have their own answers, but I am asking you to be okay with that and kind of start to shift your mindset. Reject the expectation that things are going to be tidy and always make sense. Nobody knows what they're doing, especially the people who say they know what they're doing. If somebody comes at you overly confident and says, "Oh, I have all the answers, just listen to me," run as fast as you can in the opposite direction, because they don't. They're just making it up as they go, just like you are, just like I am. And that's totally fine. Like we're people. We are allowed to reinvent ourselves. It's not important to know all the right answers or all the next steps. I would say it's actually more important to know what you don't want and to know where you don't want to go, because that leaves all the other possibilities open to you. But you are clear and defined and passionate about, oh, I do not want this. I am passionate about being a creative. I am passionate about telling stories. I'm passionate about making cool things. But I'm not going to sacrifice time with my daughter and time with my family or my home life for any of that. So you have to figure out what works for you. You know, now that I think about it, it's like I've figured it out this far, and some seasons of life look a little smoother and more quote unquote successful than others, but I will figure it out. I kind of always have. I feel like you listening will also figure it out, because the obstacle is the way. I'm telling you, if nothing else, I'm not trying to shill this book, but just like, if you're curious about what we're talking about here, just go read the book. I read it in like a week with minimal time in every day. It's so inspiring to just know that there are other people out there that have had this same thought process in the past. So here's my ask, and I want to hear from you. So please leave a comment in the YouTube video if that's where you're watching, or on your podcast player of choice if that's where you're listening. Find me on social media at Drew English with 2 H's at the end on Instagram or Threads. I'm also on LinkedIn, so it's easy to find me, but get in touch. What obstacle are you facing right now that's actually pointing you towards your next big move? Right? Let me know. I'm so curious. I'm so curious to hear from the community and to hear what's resonating with people. If you want to sign up for the newsletter, I would love to have you. It's drewenglish.kit.com/newsletter. I'm trying to send these out every week. It would be great to have you. And, every little bit helps. I'm really trying to grow that thing. So please come on by. And one thing I've been kind of spitballing is doing a little bit of coaching on showing up for yourself authentically to camera, right? Speaking in front of a camera and into a microphone is awkward for a lot of people, and it took me some time to get comfortable with it. So if it's something you're interested in, let me know. Maybe it's something we can roll out in the future. But until next time, thanks for coming by.